Hello everyone, my name is Loco and welcome to a best of 7 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a very exciting match because we have none other than Dark going up against MaxPax. Both of these players, of course, compete in very different regions. MaxPax generally only plays, well, he plays in a lot of tournaments, but generally speaking, obviously, he competes in the European scene, and then Dark, he plays in practically all of the Korean tournaments. And this is always an exciting matchup because both of them are ridiculously good, but when it comes to their approach to StarCraft 2, they're complete polar opposites, at least in my mind. So MaxPax, he plays this game in a very robotic way. He basically tries to optimize everything. He pretends that this game is an Excel spreadsheet and he wants to have the perfect outcome. Dark, in the meantime, well, he's a very messy player, a very chaotic player. And interestingly enough, it seems that over the years, whenever these two go up against each other, MaxPax struggles really hard. I think MaxPax is strong when it comes to predictable Zerg playstyles, which is funny because somebody like, for example, Cyril, widely considered to be the very best StarCraft player in the world, but he plays extremely predictable, right? And it seems that MaxPax is, I think he's probably, at the very least, more comfortable playing against somebody like Cyril than he is against somebody like Dark. Either way, this is a best of 7, so first player for, 4 map wins. Will be the victor in this particular series. So we should be able to see a variety of strategies. And we're starting off on Abyssal Reef. This is a very large map. A lot of Zerg players have been avoiding the late game. Dark, though, not opening up with any sort of cheese right here because, well, I'm assuming at the very least he's going to bring some of that later on in this series. Because I don't think you can ever do a best of 7. Really, not even really a best of 3, right? But definitely not a best of 7 or a best of 5 without some sort of dark cheese. So we'll have to find out exactly what it's going to be. I don't really think that we're going to see anything super aggressive from MaxPax. He does like to mix it in. As a matter of fact, back when MaxPax first got good at the game, quite a few years ago at this point, but still a relative newcomer when it comes to high-level StarCraft, because a lot of players, like for example Dark, have been around for more than a decade, but MaxPax over the last couple of years really making a name for himself. But when he first got good, he was cheesing a lot. He came up with this build order specifically for Protoss versus Terran, where it literally started with a proxy gateway. Very powerful, not very strong anymore these days, because he basically single-handedly shifted the meta back in the day, because everybody started playing it, and then, well, Terrans obviously adjusted, but yeah, he first got popular playing cheesy builds, and nowadays, he mixes it in every once in a while, but it's certainly not his go-to. I'm hoping at some point, actually, that we're gonna see like a full 180 again. You know, where one day MaxPax wakes up in the morning and he just decides that chaos is what he wants to deal with, and that's the type of playstyle he likes to go for. But we're gonna go for a good old Void Ray start here, a very defensive approach. I'm assuming we'll see an Oracle on the back of this too. First adept right now, shades towards the natural expansion. Well, Dark has a queen. He's got a couple Zerglings. Everything should be more than okay. Already opening up with a very fast third hatchery. Now, most of the aggression that Zerg players like to go for, unless it's like very early game, which is what Dark also brings to the table all the time, but most of the time it's the mid game. So when we go up to a lair, when Zerg has a reasonable economy, that's usually when most of the aggression begins. Dark actually hitting a supply block. It's Dark. I mean, it's only a few seconds, but, you know, nothing's really happened so far in this particular game. You would imagine you can time your overlords perfectly. But that is what we like to call a dark moment in the business. He seems to be the only one that really gets away with it. Now, MaxPax wants to have the cake and then eat it too. So he wants to get 2 Overlord kills. A couple months ago when we did see the Void Ray, he even wants a 3rd one. When we first started seeing the Void Rays builds, where you just start off with a single Void, Protoss players would immediately go for the Overlord that was close to home. Now, obviously, what's up, dude? How are you doing? This is not Shark Bro, is it? Shark Bro's over here somewhere. This is little brother. Yeah, not as little as you think. But anyways, generally speaking, obviously, it's much better to send that Void Ray across the map, because this Ovi, it is not going to go home anymore. It's just that if you are afraid of, say, for example, say you open up with a Void Ray first, and you then want to follow it up with, oh my god, this is actually really good. 3 Ovis is really strong. Say you want to follow it up with some sort of, I don't know, Dark Templar shenanigans or whatever. Then obviously you do want to kill the Overlord closer to home first. because you want to deny any sort of scouting. And there is, I guess, a very small chance that somehow Otto over here has, made it past the line of defense. And Dark believes that indeed he has been completely invisible. Now, Max is going to cover this section of the map with a pylon, but he doesn't actually see the Overlord. I really assumed that the Overlord would be, well, the main target next. Does Max really assume that Dark did not go for a single Overlord scout at all? Well, he's unpredictable, but he decides to now go for a Nidus network. Conservative approach for the very first worm, but I can almost guarantee you that the next worm is gonna go inside of the main base, although he spots it. This is huge. Yeah. What's up, Shark Bro? Good to see you, man. Yeah. So killing that Overlord is actually very significant, but already the Nidus worm has been put down. And even though the original plan, I'm assuming at the very least, was to send that second worm into the main base, Dark is just going to put all of his eggs in one basket. A complete 2-base all-in. He does have 3 hatcheries, yes, but he only has workers to saturate 2. This is very committed. He, at the bare minimum, needs to kill this third Nexus. If somehow, some way, MaxPax survives with the Nexus intact, he is going to be in a phenomenal spot. The Queens are kind of working on the Nexus already, but it takes them a long time to kill. They don't really have very high DPS. Sentry, though, a little bit overly exposed. Void Ray is already dead. We only have a single Oracle up in the air as well. Not a ton of defense. Additional links now popping out of the Nidus Worm as well. Trying to see if he can just slowly chip away at all of this. Even though he may very well be able to kill the Nexus here, there will be a counterattack from the Protoss player with Blink Stalker. And I believe that it will still be a difficult thing to hold. Alright. The units that are left over pop back into the worm. Dark apparently got what he came for. But I'm still not really loving this position all too much for him. That is such a Dark thing, right? So obviously this is a good spot for him now. But it's not like this is really a situation that you can truly write home about. Dark takes a lot of these like coin flippy strategies. So he goes for very risky plays only to get a marginal advantage. Look at the supply count, for example. It's not, it's not looking that hot here for Dark. Obviously, the base defense now will take place on creep. And he did skip the Roach Warren as well, which is also very greedy, but he decided to go straight into Hydras. Hydra Queen Zergling is going to be fantastic when it comes to cleaning up Stalkers, but Max is known for his Stalker control, so let's see. He might still be able to bring this one home. He did rebuild the Nexus as well in the meantime at, well, the third base location once again. Great Blink Stalker micro so far, though, by the Danish Protoss. Okay. Yeah, and this is not so easy after all, Dark. 4th hatch in a world of trouble now, too. I don't believe that that one is going to go up. I mean, at the very least, not if MaxPax decides to target it. Yeah. There's no prism here. That's the real issue. He needs to warp in units and then send them all the way across. It's a little bit awkward. It means that all of those reinforcements are just slow. They're showing up a little later than you ideally want them to. I like the additional Zerglings here. Stalkers have very slow attack speed, obviously, so sending them down towards the low ground is indeed one way to go, but okay. Okay. Dark stays alive. But ultimately, who's ahead now? Well, somehow, some way, we have arrived at a supply count that is pretty much identical. Psystorm will be the next weapon of choice for MaxPax. Dark is gonna double down, it seems, on Hydra Ling, and he may just go for like a full counterattack. Wouldn't be surprised at all if he just goes for a full offensive once more. Obviously, he still has the Nidus network too. He can use it still to bring the Queens in, or maybe to go for reinforcing Hydras, or I guess even Lynx can pop into the Worm as well. Not quite as useful, but still something you can do. Yep, and we're gonna head on over. This has been a nice back and forth so far. But you can see how Dark is the one dictating the pace of this match. Sure, maybe Protoss late game has been looking really good for Protoss. But if you go up against Dark, it is not easy to get there whatsoever, because he will force you to wrestle in the mud with him. 4th Nexus in a world of trouble, but I don't know if Dark really cares. He wants to go for the throat. Hydra DPS is obviously very high. I like the charge slots over here a ton. Having Psystorm would be phenomenal, but I don't think that Max can really afford it just yet. Nexus does get killed here in the end. Okay, we're going to put down a Nidus Worm there too. Some reinforcing units in the Worm potentially, but nice targeting there by the Protoss once again. In the meantime, Dark has got the 4th base up and running, but he's only got 62 workers, which is really not that much. MaxPax spends his piggy bank over here, decides to go into Storm. Takes a while to research, but if you could get some High Templar out, obviously phenomenal here against these Hydras and Zerglings. Very low HP units. Okay. Dude, if this is what the entirety of the series is going to be like, back and forth, tug of wars, yeah. Should be in for a treat. Now, by the way, this is not from a tournament series. This is a organized show match by Soup. So, big shout out to them for sending over the replays. They've been doing these quite regularly, so they just invite 2 top-of-the-line pro gamers to play against each other in a best of 7. Great format. I like it a lot. It's basic, but it's good. It's fitting well into the landscape of StarCraft right now. Ooh, one Immortal, Misreli there. MaxPax does catch it, though, before he accidentally feeds it into the Hydras. Now, Dark once more swooped forward and got another kill on that Nexus. Actually, I think that second one must have been a cancel, because the first Nexus kill was the 3rd, and then I believe Max did forget to cancel the very first time that Dark went across the map with the Hydras. Alright, well, Storm is a massive power spike, and Storm is now available. How many Templar do we have? 5. Not all heroes wear capes, but these guys do. There is a observer nearby, too. Storm? Yeah. Not a very powerful Storm there. Now, obviously, the surprise has been revealed, too. Good snipe right there on that observer. Fleet Beacon, by the way, coming up. So MaxPax wants to go into Skytolls eventually, but suddenly he is finding himself getting attacked from 3 different sides. He's stuck between multiple layers of Zerg armies. High Templar morphed themselves into Archons, but this is a brilliant attack by Dark. Oi, oi, oi. I don't think that could have really gone any better than that. Wow. Huh. What a way to end it. GG. Whew. Brilliant pincer attack right there. From the South Korean Zerg. A lot of Zerg players feel like they need to tech up, right? So sitting on Hydra Ling for basically the entirety of the game feels weird when the opponent is going for, well, I guess High Templar aren't really like real tier 3 units, right? Like they're not Colossi or Carriers or whatever, but they feel like high tier, high tech units. Dark's basically just, well, doubling down on hitting his opponent with a rock, right? The opponent in the meantime is teching up towards, I don't know, AK-47s or something. He's just still hitting the opponent with rocks, and turns out if you have enough rocks, it can still work. Well, ooh, okay. He's faking a hatchery first. He wants to go hatchery first in his opponent's natural expansion, I believe. This is the probe checking right now, though. Dark is going to be able to secure his natural eventually, but this should immediately prompt the probe to go down to the low ground. If not, this base is going to get blocked. MaxPax did not decide to send a worker down. I'm a little bit surprised by that. I guess he's not afraid of this sort of thing, but this is really annoying to deal with. So this is hatchery in your own natural first, and then a hatchery in the opponent's natural next. And again, Dark is the one that puts himself in the driver's seat. Now with perfect defense, this is not really that scary. It looks terrifying, and it's really bad if you're not 100% convinced as to what you need to do. MaxPax has played against this a million times before, but it's still annoying, and it certainly is, well, throwing off your game plan. Whatever Max was planning on going for earlier on in this match, throw it out of the window, or at the very least delay it, because it's unlikely that things are going to work. Instead, now we have double gateway. So double gateway is one of the couple of the responses that we generally see. The norm is usually to pull 4 to 5 probes together with a Zealot, and then just follow it up with Adepts. This is a single probe right now together with a Zealot, and I'm assuming we're going to go double Adept production right now. The thing is, when you go for the second gateway like this, and you do want to produce out of it, you can't really save up 400 minerals anyway. But this now is kind of turning into a one-base opener for MaxPax. Dark gonna cancel? He's not gonna cancel. Yep, he's gonna make a queen. If somehow Brenda can put a creep tumor somewhere inside of the natural expansion, this base can be denied over and over and over again, because the creep, well, it needs to be killed. And obviously you don't really have any detection here particularly quick. Nice targeting actually on the health, or on the cocoons, but this is actually super annoying now by MaxPax. Or 4 MaxPax, rather. Adepts have to go across. We have 2 more Adepts on the back of this as well. Zerglings will just simply begin. Lings are going to run around. Try to see if they can buy as much HP on this hatch as possible. And there's the Queen. Adepts, in the meantime, have made their way across the map. Not a whole lot available yet for base defense, but there is a Queen inside of the main base. One of the Adepts, ooh, almost got surrounded, and it's actually still very low in HP. It does stay alive, and obviously the HPs, ooh, the shield, it will eventually regenerate. Couple reinforcing links, Creep Tumor gets sniped. Brenda will be accumulating energy once more, though. Couple seconds until she can once more put down another Creep Tumor. And in the meantime, slow Zerglings are chasing those Adepts away on the other side of the map. Oh man, this base is never going to be acquired at this rate. There is an Oracle coming, and Oracles do have a spell called Revelation. MaxPax going for a backup pylon and now building up a 3rd Nexus. Well, a 3rd base location Nexus anyways, because Brenda is the one protecting the wall. Dude, playing against Dark is an absolute nightmare. Like, it's just... what is happening in this game? GG. I just see a lot of whiny Zerg players right now, all over the internet. And I know a lot of people would lump me that, or they would lump me, rather, into the same category too. There's a lot of people struggling right now, but oftentimes it kind of looks like Dark doesn't get the memo. He certainly watches a lot of top-level StarCraft, like he knows what other players do. And then he just goes ahead and does his own thing, and nobody else seems to really be able to copy it. It's something beautiful. Well, so far, MaxPax has not been able to find his groove at all. MaxPax has just not been able to get his own game going. And this is exactly what I feel like he struggles against. So he's super good in these straightforward, normal, quote-unquote, normal games. But Dark just never plays like that. He doesn't do it. Where you go up against Serral, when you go up against Raynar, when you play against, say, for example, Lambo or Laser, right? Like all of the European Zerg, you kind of have a good understanding of what they will do in the earlier stages of the game. And sure, there is early game variety, but it's not even remotely the same as what Dark likes to bring to the table. And yeah, some of the builds that Dark plays, they're a little suboptimal. Ah, dude, Max is getting absolutely destroyed mentally right now too, I believe. This is not the way to start. At least he kills an Overlord. That's something. Anyways, Dark never plays the same build twice because he doesn't really play build orders. He just kind of wings it. He plays very feeling focused. Losing the early game Adept right there, though, is actually a bit sloppy. You really don't want to lose it. Likewise, you really don't want to be losing your Overlord against the Stalker, so... we could still call this even. Both players a little bit derpy. We're settling for a couple larvae. That's when you know times are desperate. When I first started playing StarCraft, actually, I never quite understood how that worked. So the way larvae work in StarCraft 2 are the cocoons that become out of them, right? Like they don't have a lot of HP, but they're very high in armor, meaning that for most units out there, they're very difficult to destroy. However, oracles, they are spellcasters, and spells in StarCraft 2, every single spell in the game, ignores armor. So that's why the oracle can very quickly zap away at the larvae and kill them very easily, and why, for example, something like a zealot would struggle against that sort of thing quite a bit. Now, some of the attacks in StarCraft 2 that you wouldn't necessarily assume are spells are actually spells. Like, for example, the Widowmine attack. Widowmines are basically magicians. Yeah, they went to Hogwarts and everything. They got put into House Terran. Now, but there's a bunch of units in the game that you wouldn't really consider to be spellcasters. But they are dealing spell-based damage. Which is why, for example, back in the day when we had like the Hydraulic Bane versus like Mass Marine Marauder Mine type of styles, right? Zergs would usually just be upgrading melee and missile rather than armor because it doesn't really help you out very much. Spire. This is a super quick Spire from Dark. So MaxPax is kind of getting to play his own game so far. I mean, this hasn't been a phenomenal start, but also not really one that you can be too triggered by. He's going for a Stargate into an Archon drop right now, which is usually quite good. He needs to know, though, about the Spire. If he doesn't know about the Spire and suddenly like a dozen mutas show up, well, maybe it's going to be more like 6 or 7 mutas in this kind of circumstance, but it'll be very difficult for him to stop it. So MaxPax, though, at the very least is getting his groove on now. Yeah, at the very least can play his game. No Spore Crawler in the third base is crazy, especially with how strong Spore Crawlers are these days. Just not doing it. We're still dancing here with the Archons, so some nice juggling. But I'm a little bit concerned for the Spire situation. There is a world where MaxPax can defend against it, even though he doesn't know. There's also a world, though, where the mutas suddenly appear, and the Prism happens to be above dead space that, you know, it can't be dropping down the Archons, and then you lose the Prism, and you lose the counter. It's a disaster. So it's much more preferable to actually find out about the Spire. But it's... yeah, it's in such an obvious location that it's hard to scout. You know what I mean? Like, this is technically very easy to spot. Oh, we're going mass muta, even. Dark is going 9 mutas right now, and he's researching the +1 flyer attacks. That means that he is going to go and just make more mutas, and then more mutas, and then more mutas. This is considered to be like a B-tier strategy for Zerg at best. Yeah, he's gonna go after the Prism. Recall, 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 recall. Yeah, okay, quick recall. Yeah, okay. Saved one of the Archons. That's something, I suppose. It'll still be difficult, though, to hold the counterattack. There's a lot of Lings available. Now he needs to make sure that he gets some base defense started, too. So, Photon Cannon's indeed coming up. Fourth Nexus has already been cancelled. Apparently, we are just gonna try and play Survival for now. Phoenix production has begun as well. Most of the time when you go up against Zerg, and they do play mutas, again, B-tier strategy at best, usually they make like one group of mutas, and then they immediately transition away from it again. This is something different, though. I mean, we do have a Hydra tank coming up, so maybe Dark will transition away from this, but he is going to make a lot more mutas than what we normally see. Second Stargate and mass Phoenix production here would be much better, but you can't really just do that every single time you play against a bunch of mutas, because for all you know, it's going to be just 6 mutas and then straight into something else. Well, now he has seen the additional production of the Mutalisks for sure. This is more than the first batch that came across. We already have +1 missile researching too. I'm assuming we'll see an infestation pit and then maybe a hive or something into lurkers? Second Stargate begins, so MaxPax is thinking the same thing. He wants to go into mass Phoenix production now. But I think we're actually done making mutas here. As Dark is going Hydra muta? And again, MaxPax does not get to play what he wants to play. This is not the type of game that he wants to be playing at all. He's fine, though, in this situation. I don't mind this position for him very much. But this is forcing him to do the most dangerous thing that a StarCraft player can ever do while they are playing a game of StarCraft. And that is to think. That is not something any StarCraft player has ever signed up for, okay? The thinking is done when you're watching replays. When you're trying to imagine what you would do next time around when you find yourself in the same circumstance again. MaxPax now forced to use his brain. Not just for executing everything that he's doing as cleanly as possible, but then also for anticipating what Dark is going to be doing. And Dark is anticipating the anticipation. He's going Lurker Den together with Infestation Pit right now. But he's hitting the opponent before Storm is ever even supposed to be done. Zerglings in the natural. Ooh, taking a page out of Hero's book, and it's not the right page. Although, obviously, there are Photon Cannons in the mineral lines already. Blink is finishing up soon. This is actually okay. 22 probes, though, is a lot. Yeah, this fight over here at the front is okay, but he has lost a lot of expensive units. I really don't like this situation very much for MaxPax. We should see a Hive. I think a Hive makes a lot of sense, and then straight into double Lurker upgrades as soon as that is all done. So whilst MaxPax is playing just barely on 3 bases, Dark is sitting here on 5 hatcheries. Now this is a real opportunity though for the Protoss. The Hive is actually quite late. Dark should have started this one up maybe 45 seconds or so ago. Problem is MaxPax doesn't know about it. So he has seen mutas into Hydra Ling. Do you assume that this is going to go into Lurkers now? If so, do you assume that the Hive would already be done right about right here? Oh, he's targeting the Templar. Okay. Good pickup right there by Max. He is forced to storm some of his own units, but the Zealots are quite beefy. Here come the Hydras and the Zerglings once again. Not an ideal engagement. Although we once more have the Mutas going in around the back, sniping 7 additional probes. Roaches right now from Dark. We're going roaches right now. I think that's a reaction to seeing the storm right here. Generally speaking, that is not a terrible approach. But it feels like we're teching down against a high-tier Protoss army here, which seems a bit weird. But I guess Dark is just concerned about the numbers right now. Double Phoenix production continues here for Max. He's still concerned for a sudden influx of like an additional, say, 20 Mutas. We got Hive and we're going straight up into the nanomuscular swell. That is the Hydra lunge ability. An absolute menace. An absolute menace of a Zerg player here. MaxPax looks rock solid in your average game of StarCraft, but when you're playing against Dark, it just doesn't really work the way you had it anticipated. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Okay, well, he's holding on, though, and that is the most important thing. Look at the minerals and gas, though, that Dark has already cooked up. He can suddenly whip out a dozen lurkers here, and life is going to be even better. He's actually surrounded the Phoenixes. Okay. Well, that's actually really good, because now all the Phoenixes are dead. Now we have one Phoenix right now looking for his friends. Zealot run by in the meantime over at that base at the bottom. There are a couple of spines over here. Queen's Head energy, but no transfusion in time. Roach Hydra running in around the back. Hydra Ling, Roach, Ravager, whatever, man. We have a combination of Zerg units going in around the other side, too. Now we're arriving at the stage in the game where Max is actually starting to run out of cash. He's only on 3 bases, 12 and a half, almost 13 minutes into the game now. His natural will be running low. His main base is pretty much out. He needs a new base, and he needs it soon. But Dark is not letting his foot off the gas. He's got lurker tech, but he's not making lurkers. Oh, no, he did. Okay, I was going to say, where did his gas go if that isn't the case? I was looking at the production tab. I was wondering if maybe we'd see an additional 20 Mutas, but no. Suddenly, big bada boom. GG. He sees the lurkers. He can't deal with it. Alrighty. Next up, we find ourselves on Ultra Love. MaxPax is looking remarkably human today. It's weird. I mean, I introduced him as being a very robotic player. Dark, by the way, just with the single GL. Man. It's so funny, because every player that I know that plays a lot of StarCraft occasionally gets tilted. I'm sure Dark gets tilted too, but this I read as a taunt. Just a straight up taunt. Good luck. You ready for what I throw at you next? Good luck, buddy. It's going to be another drone towards the other side of the map. Now there is a probe. Oh no. This is a very quick proxy. Now suddenly, Dark has 4 games worth of wiggle room. He can do anything. He can do whatever he likes. Do you think if you cheese MaxPax 4 games in a row, you will win once? I'm not so sure, really, but this is this is one way to start up. So there's still no natural. This is a little bit different than the previous game that we had a proxy hatchery in. But yeah, everybody's out here playing checkers, and in the meantime, Dark's playing chess. It's looking like an entirely different game all of a sudden. Well, now we're gonna go for the more conventional approach. So this is the alternative version that I was trying to highlight. Now, there's also a bit of a different opener, obviously, here by Dark. But rather than going for the double gateway and then into the Zealot and then a single probe on the hatchery and quadruple a death production and all the rest of it, now we're really making sure that this hatch is not even going to finish. Dark is just going to keep it around for as long as possible, just to keep this creep around for as long as possible. He should cancel. There we go. If he could, he would steal a gas geyser in the main base too. Shouldn't be allowed to, but you never know. Residual creep has now disappeared. This is the norm. This is the norm when it comes to dealing with this sort of thing. Look at MaxPax. He sent that probe to the gas geyser like a good 5 seconds before that drone could ever get close. That's the type of stuff. I don't want to look into it all too much, but that's the type of stuff you only do when you're nervous. When you're feeling the heat, you could just pull a probe. When you see the drone moving over here, you could pull one of these probes, right-click it onto the gas, and that way this assimilator couldn't be shown. It could never be stolen here by the drone. I think that's the type of stuff that Dark looks at too. He's like, oh, look at this guy. That's a weak play. That is not what we do. All right, let's see. Triple hatch opener here for Dark in the end. Stargate. I'm hoping, by the way, for the series' sake, that Max is going to be able to repack himself, because I am not really... Oh, okay, that's the beginning. Not really loving how these games are going for him. Adept in the meantime inside of the main base too. Killing 2 drones, 3. Okay, this is good. This is really... Okay, this is way better. Way better than what Max has been able to achieve so far. We're beginning to dance. One more? Boom. Very good. Killed the Zergling there on his way out as well. 5 workers, just like that. Stargate built. Once more will be the weapon of choice. Honestly, killing 5 workers when the opponent has like 25 workers in total is massive. 5 workers in absolute numbers, not that much, but at this stage in the game, it really slows down the Zerg so much. Because a significant portion of their income has gone down the drain. Generally, with Zerg, you already do have to cut workers anyway if you want to be producing a lot of queens, and now that's going to be even more abundant here, so you got to be careful as Dark. Because this is the type of game that can very quickly slip out of your hands. Actually, I think this is probably the best spot that MaxPax has been in this entire series so far. Like, he's lost the Zealot, yes, but this is... Yeah. Now he gets to be deciding the pace of the game a little bit. Normally, that's Protoss in the early and mid game anyway. Maybe even in the late game too. There are moments where Zerg can grab it out of their hands, but generally speaking, at least in my mind, Protoss is the one that dictates the pacing. Now that's sloppy. New Queen just popped out of the hatchery. He went to face tank it with the Oracle and then lost it. It's not the type of stuff we want to see. Third Nexus coming up. This is later now, obviously. Normal timing of that is about 350, 345. Sometimes even sooner than that, depending on the number of gateways. Because of the proxy hatch, everything has been thrown out of the window. Now, this is phenomenal. Yeah, 6 additional workers, 12 drones before Zerg can never really hit, like, what, 50? MaxPax has got a substantial advantage, but you can tell here that he's not really feeling... He's not really feeling comfortable, I don't think. Twilight Council. Oh, Probe is stuck. I don't know if Probius is a stepbrother, but maybe that, you know, maybe that would come in handy. Oh no. Poor Probius. That's 4 gas we will never see again. Unless there's a prism at some point. Oh, he decides to cancel it. Free Probius! Yeah! Way better than Free Willy. Remember that movie? God, if you don't remember that movie, that's a weird statement to... Anyways. Willy is an orca, okay? Anyways, it's alright. Blink coming up together with the +1. Everything feels late. It's partly due to the fact that the proxy hatch obviously started this game off, but everything feels extremely slow now. I think it's also MaxPax just mis-executing a tiny bit. Either way, he's going to be able to show what he's made of now, as he's got a very nice line of attack. We see this being used all the time on this map. From third base to third base, the distance is not that large. This bridge basically marks the halfway point on the map. This over here. This black hole over here in the middle. That is the exact center. And we're gonna go proxy. Okay. This is what Hero would do. What would Hero do? That's what we need to be thinking to ourselves when we see these type of games. Because Hero has been consistently winning against Dark. Even though I do consider MaxPax to be the better player across the board. It's funny how that works. StarCraft counters are circular, apparently. Yeah, it's just my opinion in the end, too. You can feel differently. Stalkers, coming up. Charge on the back of this as well. +1 melee is finished, so Dark is going to be able to make just a whole lot of Zerglings and hopefully defend. Would have been really nice to have a third Oracle available in this type of situation, because then you could put down a lot more stasis wards and activate the Pulsar Beam against the Lynx. Either way, this is a proxy now, and MaxPax is facing Dark head on. I think this is the way to do it. +2 melee on the back of this. There is a 4th and a 5th hatch. One queen goes down. Zerglings once more triggering the stasis boards. Zealots, though, do not yet have charge, but when they finish, they're going to be able to just slice up those Zerglings really rapidly. Okay. Zealots going around the site. Just mostly here to try and create a distraction. Honestly, though, the number of Stalkers here is just brutal. Yeah, and this is the difference, right? When you deal damage to Zerg early on, or you take damage from Zerg early on, the follow-up attacks are wildly different. The follow-up results are just not the same. GG. MaxPax gets a point on the board. Okay, everybody stay calm. It seems to me that we've got ourselves a series. This was honestly looking like a clean 4-0 sweep for Dark for just a little bit. But MaxPax is not gonna, well, go down that easily. Now, we can't really call this momentum just yet, but assuming Max wins this one too, then suddenly I think the next game may actually be, I think that becomes an advantage. Momentum in a StarCraft series, in a StarCraft tournament in general, is a very real thing. Where you can get the ball rolling. Usually, it'll keep rolling. Well, let's see. Both players sending workers across the map. I don't think this is really that good of a play. I really don't think so. But Dark's just, okay. I mean, I have seen this before, haven't I? Carbon copy of the other games. Let's see. Different map. Do we send a probe down? No, we just don't care. Are we gonna go double gateway approach, or are we gonna go for a single gateway? Well, for now, I think we're gonna be planting down the Cybercore. Nope, we're gonna go double gateway again. So this is the exact same response that MaxPax did earlier. Let's hope for his sake that it's gonna work out just a little bit better. Oh, he's gonna, okay. He is going to send 4 probes rather than 1. So I really think he wants to make sure that this hatchery is down before Brenda can poop out a creep tumor. Because she's a menace. Everybody knows when Brenda spawns, you better run. May as well make sure that she can spawn. All right, all right. So that's the team over here in charge of that. They are here to make sure that this hatchery is never going to be done in time. Now the double adept production will begin. Obviously, with this way of opening up, Dark has 2 hatcheries going up before really anything else. Meaning that his Zergling speed is going to be very late, because he has to delay the extractor and the spawning pool and everything else. So Adept here can actually put in a lot of work. So this is the original plan that MaxPax had. I think in the previous game where we saw a proxy hatch identical to this one, he assumed that Dark would cancel the hatchery. Not the case. Didn't quite happen that way. Nexus? Yep. Okay. Dark's got link speed coming right now. Honestly, just making Adepts at this point is going to force out Zerglings. And slow Zerglings is the last thing that Dark wants to be making right now, because he needs to make drones. And slow Zerglings are also not really something that MaxPax is going to be scared of. Like, he shouldn't be losing the Adepts. But any Zergling right now that he forces out, any group of Zerglings that he can force the Zerg player to produce, means that there's going to be less drones. So this is good. Good setup here for Max. Obviously, though, he's also quite late with a lot of his follow-ups. Like, for example, that second assimilator. That one had to be delayed for a little while. Now, the Stargate, obviously, is also all very late. Again, normal timing of the third Nexus can really be right about right now. The natural expansion isn't even done yet. Dark is, however, going to be sneaking out of third base, it seems. Well, he's trying to decide. A little bit indecisive as to where he wants to be taking that base. Apparently, we do go for the one vertical from the natural and the main. Are you a triangle expansion guy or a vertical expansion guy? I think Dark just mixes it up a lot. I don't really like this base, though. I agree with Dark. This one's way easier to defend here. Mostly because the amount of entrances into this base, it just feels a little tricky. Whereas with this one, you really only have the big ramp to worry about, because this area is going to be gooped up in creep anyway. Okay. Evo Chamber for Dark. Very quick Evo Chamber, actually. Considering the current state of the game. I guess it's once more. Yep, good old +1 melee. Now, we have an adept push here with oracles. This is very normal in the current meta, although the way that which MaxPax got here, right, with the double gateway start and the proxy hatch and everything, this is a little different. Snipes the creep tumors for now. Gonna start working on the queen itself. Shade forward. Oracle's beam gets activated. He decides to go for the queen. Sorry about that, Brenda. Shade did get cancelled, but Revelation has been used. Okay! MaxPax is finding his groove. These exchanges are all excellent. Excellent if you're a Protoss fan, that is. Not so much if you're a Dark fan. Because Dark is just not really getting his footing here. Like, he is basically trying to be annoying, and MaxPax, he just says no. You know in those big fights in Dragon Ball Z where they just seem to be deflecting everything? That is effectively MaxPax now. After getting hit in the face in the first couple games, now he's not taking any damage anymore. Although maybe these Zerglings can change the tide of battle. They're heading on over towards that third Nexus, and there's really nothing to defend here. Oracle is going back home, and I think he is going to be able to get the cancel. But obviously, this many Zerglings is not cheap. It's really severely hindering the economical... Oh, no cancel. Wow. That's sloppy. It's really hindering the economical progression here from Dark, because his eco is very low. Like, he's only got 38 workers right now. He's just been making a ton of Zerglings. Again, not the most useful unit right now. He would be fine against, like, a Stalker follow-up. But Stalkers are not going to be coming up anytime soon. I actually think he may just want to go for, like, an all-in. Like, a repeated all-in. I don't know if I like that, though. Like, then, in that case, you really don't want your opponent to be sitting on 2 bases. You would much rather have them on 2. Or on 3, rather. So, Max is now going to follow this up with what seems to be a 2-base push. I think he's read this situation. He must have clicked on one of those Zerglings. And then he saw, wait a second, he's got +1 melee. Yep, I'm getting charge. Rather than spending his money on an additional Nexus, well, he's building one right now, but it's all a little bit later. He's decided to spend his cash on, well, up to 8 gateways in total. We're also going Templar Archives, and all of this makes me believe that maybe this third Nexus isn't even really intended to finish. At the very least, if Dark manages to get a cancel on it again, I would imagine he is going to, well, just commit to a 2-base all-in. Now, he is making probes, though. So, Max is actually oversaturated for 2 mineral lines, so I'm assuming he'll be transferring some of those workers. Dark right now, though. In the dark. Loco, you're so funny. I'm going to hit the like button. Thank you very much. Dark has no idea what's happening here. Oh, he's going Banelings. I don't think this is the way. I mean, that's gotta be expensive. Yeah, that hatchery is going to die. So, Max is going to transition now into what is likely a 2-base all-in, although he even keeps the Nexus around. He should just commit to a full push. We have Archons coming up. We should have a Warp Prism. There it is. Observers. I mean, at least one Observer would be fantastic, although I don't think he really needs it. Charge lots are going to be phenomenal with +1/+1. I would love to see some additional Chronos. We have a lot of energy on the next side. A little bit funky here. Normally something that Max is very solid at. Okay. Yeah, Dark has decided that he really wants to kill this Nexus, which is nice and all. But his real problem is the army. MaxPax actually playing this a little bit more sloppy than I would like him to. Big warp-ins, though. Extremely dangerous. He missed one warp-in, which is what's making all of this a little bit tricky. If he would have had a few more Archons, that could be phenomenal. He decides to recall the, the Oracles themselves for base defense. Third Nexus is in a little bit of trouble, but in the meantime, the main attack is taking place on Creep. Supply count still looking good for Dark, but he just doesn't really have that large of an army. And the last thing you want against Archons is Banelings. Not the setup at all. GG gets called, and MaxPax obtains another win. Okay. Well, now the scoreboard is not looking so terrible anymore. Like 15 minutes ago, I thought this was going to be a 4-0 sweep. And Dark certainly still has the advantage as far as... He's going 12 pool! No way! So we go double proxy in the previous games, and now we're going for a 12 pool all-in? Max has been probe scouting every game, though. Generally, though, what you do with the probe scout is you try to block the opponent's natural expansion. Dark is faking a natural. He's pretending like he wants to go for a natural. This is identical to everything that MaxPax has seen so far in this series. Max is likely going to check, is the third base up? Oh, we're actually going for a 12 pool together with a proxy hatchery. That means he's not going to be able to pull a lot of workers, but... I mean, he could if he really wanted to, but... This is going to make things very messy indeed. Let's see, Max. How do we respond? He decides to go into the main base first, this time around, and that means that he is going to see that indeed the spawning pool is done and that the worker count is low. Zerglings are coming. Dark, rather than building the hatchery over here, is going to complete the wall off for his opponent. How kind is that? Well, it's not very kind when you consider the fact that Zerglings are going to be able to run around this, and if push comes to shove, Dark can just cancel the hatchery too, and now make this wall extremely awkward for Max. Max is forced to go for a little embrace over here with the Protoss structures. In the meantime, slow Zerglings are running across the map. Dark does have a bunch of drones, but really not a whole lot, so he's very committed to this attack. Zealot coming up. I mean, second gateway here, Cybercore 2, so we have everything that we ultimately need. Problem is, though, yeah, with the positioning of this hatch and the follow-up structures here from MaxPax, it makes this gateway very attackable. There's really no way that this Zealot can get over there and defend. The hatchery is still taking a stupid amount of damage. In the meantime, Dark is expanding behind this. Second Zealot does finish up. Luckily here for MaxPax, he goes for another pylon. He should have been over here. Did not quite get it down quickly enough. That means that probes are forced to pull away from the main base mineral line. Zerglings do get the wraparound on the Zealot. They will be able to finish off that target. Hatchery is actually going to finish up too. Dark not canceling it. Instead, he goes for a queen. Adepts right now on the back of this for MaxPax. MaxPax really wants to get rid of these lings ASAP, because every time he pulls the workers, it's obviously a significant hit to his economy. That being said, though, he does have a substantial worker advantage, and he can take a few losses here, no problemo. But the real problem is, how in the world do you deal with this? Soon, Brenda is going to be taking, well, a creep tumor right over there in the middle of your mineral line. It's a problem. You can never expand over here. Dark can obviously be making workers on the back of this, but he can also be making more Zerglings. He actually built a bunch of drones, and then, well, decided that he wanted to make more Zerglings here in the end. Okay, Zealot goes down, additional Zerglings are going to show up. Brenda is obviously here too. Do you go for another queen? I kind of feel like you go for another queen here. Okay, we protect this creep tumor with all our might. With good positioning, that creep tumor is going to finish, and indeed it will. Keep in mind that when the Cybercore falls, Dark can't make a Stargate. Yeah, so he quickly puts down some tech. It's going to be a robo facility here, fair enough. But if this falls, he can't really do very much. I mean, a robo facility is okay. I guess the idea is to go for a prism. New Cybercore needs to begin here. Oh, yeah, this is a mess. Warp gate research is never going to be done in time. Probes are once more pulled away. And is Dark really going to be winning this series, doing a 12 pool slow Zergling all in with a proxy hatch? I mean, this is the most Dark way of obtaining the win in a best of 7. Nice control here, actually, by Max. Yeah, Max has a real issue that nobody on the European server plays like this. Nobody does this. So how do you practice against it? Well, you practice in live games like this, and you try to make the best of it, but Dark is a a seasoned veteran when it comes to cheese. He's like the old moldy, like blue cheese, you know? MaxPax still, well, the younger cheese, the one that's it's really nice and yellow. Dark hasn't been there for a very long time. So what are we doing now? We have a Zerg on 2 bases. Technically 3 if you consider this one too. We're making an Immortal. Okay, slow Zerglings are going to be just fine against that. He can't even take his natural expansion anytime soon. He needs a wall off in order to achieve anything. Creep Tumor now, using that Overlord's high ground vision, goes into the main base. We have a single probe scouting out what's up. MaxPax doesn't know that there's a fully mining base. Oh, his heart is going to sink when he sees this. Surprise! Yeah, GG. One day, I truly believe we will arrive at the point that MaxPax is the clear favorite between these two. Because keep in mind, MaxPax is still improving. I feel like a lot of the top-of-the-line players, maybe they've stagnated a little bit or they're all improving at the same rate. MaxPax, in my mind, is still one of the top-level players who is steadily improving as time goes on. And I really do believe at some point he will be considered the favorite. But today is not that day. Dark absolutely destroyed him. GG.